I know that you've all been prepared for this, but I thought I'd just remind you just the same.
Can you handle that, Blondie?
Game over, man. Game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
It was pure evil.
I want to buy some radio ad time.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
And I'm your host, Noel John Toohey.
We got Karen Mack in the back, and this is Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. Let's get to it, motherfuckers. Bing. Bing. All right, no, we're back again, and this time we're looking at the offshoot from the very famous American Horror Story franchise, and the very originally named American Horror Stories. And this is unlike the original, which is an anthology series, and that has a new story every season. This is in the more of the form of like a creep show or Tales of the Crypt or something, where it's an anthology series, whereas each episode itself, apart from the first two, are kind of singular stories, even though they kind of come
and
full
arguably
circle.
the last one,
kind of comes full circle as it goes along. So what do you think of the new... First of all, what do you think of the shitty name? And what do you think of the new format, kind of throwing a nod to Creepshow and shit, even though, because Creepshow has had its own resurgence at the moment under, I think, Greg Nicotero, I think.
Yeah, I know Creepshow's had a resurgence of I don't know, I this felt unnecessary to me, if I'm honest. You know, it was like, Creepshow's a better way, because in the back of my head I was going to say it's like campfire stories.
Yeah.
You know?
Kind of is, or like, stories to tell in the dark, that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Stories to tell in the dark. They're quite insular, you know. One of them takes place basically in a house.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of them takes place almost entirely around a pregnancy. One of them takes place around a film. And it goes on and on.
The film one was pretty good.
Like, film one was actually pretty good, and I thought the Bro House one I enjoyed, the self-awareness, the really overtly douchey social media profiles. I think you can, they're so satirical in nature that they lend themselves to satire, even extreme satire. Yeah. So I actually I'd allow that. That was douchey, but I laughed, I smiled a couple of times. I'll give it. I was entertained.
I have to say, the red-haired girl from the first two, as soon as she got away from her gay dads, she was like, I forget how to dress myself.
Yeah. You know, I can suspend my disbelief. I'm a horror buff. I'm a Marvel buff. I'm a DC buff.
Yeah.
Suspending disbelief is definitely in my wheelhouse. But I can accept you get killed in the house. You stay in the house. You haunt the house. I have no questions.
Yeah.
I have no questions. I'm down. But just get killed in the house, and you're just instantly cool with it.
Yeah.
Like, nuts. Eternity. God, do I even get my own room? Shucks.
God, snap it.
God damn it. What did you at the end of the first episode, the therapist is like, you know, I don't usually work here. We work in a session. And I'm like, I murdered you. Like, I murdered you. Like, don't be okay with that. Like,
what did you make of the return to Murder House, which a lot of people still consider to this day to be the strongest season of American Horror Story, the first season with Dylan McDermott?
Yes. Like, I mean, there's tips of the cap there, and bringing back some of the original actors, bringing back some of the original concepts. Yeah. And then the actually kind of confusing, but maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention, the meta-ness of it. There was like American Horror Story fans outside of the American Horror Story universe, but somehow inside of the American Horror Story universe.
Yeah.
But I liked the fact of the matter is, American Horror Story, I don't even think I haven't bothered with the last season so far. I think the 1984 was the last one I watched.
Yeah, I'm halfway through season 10 at the moment. It's okay.
Are you?
Yeah.
Is it out? Is it all out? Is it?
Yeah, it's all out. Yeah. I'm halfway through. It's on Disney Plus.
I figure I get to it when I get to it. But it got that. But that first season was solid. Yeah, like that first season was such a solid foundation to actually build something on. I just think, you know, you start getting greedy for seasons. It didn't need 10 seasons.
Yeah, and each season's nearly progressively worse than the one that preceded it.
Yes. Well, maybe if you want to lay them out linear, you could say, well, technically it's like, because
season 3 is probably better
than 3 and a 2 and 2. Yeah, but
because 3 is better than 2, because Coven is probably better than Asylum.
Yes.
Because Asylum was bonkers.
Yeah. And that was it. And Sarah Paulson, there's only so many times I can watch that woman cry.
There's only so many parts I can watch that woman play. Oh my God. Like, it's like this is Ray Murphy, right? He reads the casting call and he goes, So we need an invalid. We need a person of color. We need a Latino and a 65-year-old old age pensioner. Interesting. We need a black man. We need an Asian man. We need an Irish farmer. Okay, I'm going to cast all of these as Sarah Paulson.
Yeah, I'm just all I heard was you saying Sarah Paulson a bunch of times, and I'm just thinking it was eating up. We're only trying to run a tight half hour. Just stop saying Sarah Paulson.
Irish farmer, Sarah Paulson. Twins, Sarah Paulson. Conjoined twins, Sarah Paulson twice.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like,
and she demanded $5 million and 10 cries.
yeah. Yeah. I just don't get his fascination with her because like she's a good actress, but she's a bit one note in my opinion.
Yes,
you know,
and again, like I do get the returning characters, and you know, you're a serial killer and now you're a witch or whatever, and you can have fun with that. But it gets after a third year, fourth year, it gets pantomime. Yeah, and even by the pantomime kind of standards, I think this American Horror Story offshoot, one-off, I don't know what it is, was even extremely pantomime on top of that. So there was nothing at all horror-ish about it for me. Even the one with the cinema, I thought that was a good concept. You could have actually made that into... You could have meted that out, maybe. That was decent, but there was nothing...
I have a feeling that American Horror Stories, and I mentioned this to Lorraine, that most of those stories were probably rejected season ideas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like that's
a good shout.
You know, we can't...
I don't know whether you're right or wrong.
Yeah,
it's
but
a good shout.
You know, that kind of is like we can't get 10 episodes out of this story, but we could get one really solid one. We could get 2 really solid episodes, and we could do this and we could do that, but we can't, like, because that really, like, look at a lot of those episodes, they really have that kind of American Horror Story season feel. Like, it looks like little ideas that you could, like, imagine maybe 3 or 4 more episodes there, and probably would have been hard to flesh out to a full 10. So I can
like
imagine
the pregnancy
that,
episode.
Yeah,
you know, it was because that had its twists. You know, it was like, oh, but no, we were doing this to get her money. But she was doing this to get back at you. Who were doing this, and haha. And I was like, oh my god, this is just painfully bad. But if they had stretched out over a season, it would have been truly horrifying.
Is that the one with the demon?
Truly horrifying. Yeah, that's the one where what's the name of the actress? That's Carrie Fisher's daughter.
Oh, Billy Lord. She's banging the demon. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and she's trying to get pregnant. And
Carrie Fisher, rest in peace, by the way.
Yeah, Carrie Fisher, absolute legend. I was about to say living legend, but God, unfortunately not. But I don't know. Like, I mean, all in all, I suppose you would look at this and kind of go, okay, like I like this. I didn't like any of this. That was an unnecessary use of my time.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't want another season of this, and I think you're probably right. Rejected ideas, that didn't occur to me, but it does seem to ring true.
Yeah, it feels like that. But I think we're going to get more seasons.
You think so? Yeah.
I think so, yeah, because like this fucking franchise will not die.
Yeah, it's kind of got this Transformers thing to it, as in, like, I don't know, is it making money?
Yeah.
Yes. Then why are we having this conversation? Let's get on with it.
It has that thing where it's like you want to see what it's going to come back with every year. Like, even me, like, I watch it.
You're curious, season. Even if you're, you're curious. You can't help it. You wish you weren't, but you are.
Yeah, because you're like, what's he going to cook up this year? Like, you know, it's the apocalypse. Like, the last 3 or 4 have been very poor, like, very poor.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why they keep going with it, but I do understand why they keep going with it, because obviously it's a very built-in fan base. You got a decade of fucking fans now. So they're probably going to keep going for another 5 seasons.
It's somewhere, for me, it's somewhere in between true horror and Goosebumps.
Yeah.
Like, it's very, very dark Goosebumps, but it's very, very light horror.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if there was a grey area, if there's a Venn diagram and they're 2 completely different things. Goosebumps.
Yeah, it's like if...
Let's just say John Carpenter.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like if
just in that space.
Cinemax or HBO would make Goosebumps and there's like titty and a bit of nudity. You know, that kind of...
Yeah, absolutely. HBO Goosebumps.
Yeah,
that's what it is. I think we cracked the code.
Goosemax.
Goosemax. But like, is there anything in this you loved? Like, again, like the Bro House thing made me laugh. I just loved how superficial and douchey and I just meta that was.
Yeah, that Bro House episode was really good. It reminded me of a movie that I've seen recently with Joe Curry from Stranger Things. I'm saying more words because I can't remember the name of it.
Joe Curry is which one?
Steve.
Things? Okay.
The one where he's like an Uber driver or something.
Manic or something.
What's it called?
That was a great film.
Is it called where you kill loads of people? A Streak? No.
What's his name?
Joe Curry. You checking it? Are you? Cool. Yeah, but like, it reminded me of that. I like that kind of where people look
Spree.
at the spree. Sorry, yeah, savage. Yeah, killing spree. Yeah,
That was actually good, yeah, and that was like again very meta. How superficial these people are taken to the nth degree. I was in for it. That was fine. That cheesiness and cringiness lent itself to the story as opposed to like made the story unbearable.
Yeah, because like it's not like unheard of. People know the stories of that fucking douchebag. What's his name? Logan Paul.
Of course, it's exact. That's what it was about.
In the suicide,
in the
suicide forest when he went into Japan, the famous forest where people go to kill themselves. And there was even a horror movie with Natalie Dormer a few years ago called The Forest about it. But he went.
Wasn't great.
Wasn't great. Had so much potential. But he went and took pictures of a dead person there, and obviously it shows that a lot of, not every one of them, but a lot of these influencers or online kind of like high-level media personalities that become so famous, become kind of sociopathic because of it, or is it the other thing where they're sociopathic all along and that's why they were able to become famous in the first place? And it's that chicken egg thing, and it's kind of like that nature nurture thing. Like, were they?
I think it's both as well. Like the nature nurture conversation. It ends up being both.
Yeah.
I mean, they get so myopic that everything is just seen as clout and potential for growth.
It's all about
and
likes,
the brand.
clicks, follows.
Yeah, it's all about likes, and then you stop seeing the moral implications of what you're doing or just the worth.
Yeah.
And this was that taken again to a really, really, really strange degree. And it's that like this where they're showing it to all their friends, or it's after going live or some shit, and your man's about to jump and they're going, bro. You know what I mean? You can just imagine.
It just shows you that
really
disconnect, though, isn't it? Like, because and it was something like we kind of talked about recently. Is like, the people that hand over money to homeless people, what they've recorded, so they can get the likes and the follows.
Oh my god!
And
and it's $20.
Yeah,
and we're like, it's good that guy got $20, but this guy's got like $800. $8,000 from the stream of him giving the $20, and that's the game, like, you know.
And,
it's if everybody, instead of following this guy, gave one homeless person somewhere $1, that would be $8,000.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
What I mean?
And that homeless person would probably OD, but whatever. I said it. Yeah. But no, but I was like, I think that was clever because it shows the disconnect. Like, a lot of people, and not just people like that are online, but a lot of times documentarians as well, when they're looking at something, they kind of create this disconnect between them and their subject matter. And even though they could really stop what's going on, they get so fascinated with capturing the moment of what is happening to their own benefit that they actually disconnect themselves away from their human obligation of actually maybe rescuing that person, or at least attempting to rescue that person, you know. So I really did like that about the Bro House episode, and the boys were like, they played the douches to perfection, like they really did. Like, so I really like.
Oh, you dude, your six pack is sick, no homo.
No homo.
I loved all that, like soft homo. I just loved it. It's just great. Like,
that guy is brilliant. Like, he's just like, wait, he's going up and down, and he's like, put your nuts in my face. And he's like, dude, you like that? No homo.
If I wasn't in the girls, I'd be trying to contain myself.
No homo.
No homo. I don't know. And then of course, because they're gigantic douches, you get to see them all die. And then that's always,
and
you
get
know,
to
like
enjoy them dying in a sense.
You get to enjoy it, yeah. And there's no like, it doesn't have a heaviness to it. But but I don't know. There's this thing when something's not trying to be when it's trying to be something, it's clearly not. If that tried to introduce brevity into the storyline, you'd be like, no.
I would have watched the Bro House.
So that's definitely the best episode of them, I think, by your countryman. Yeah. Absolutely,
well, I liked. I would have watched more Bro House, definitely, for sure. Like,
or the cinema one, the one with Rabbit.
Yeah, Rabbit. That's the one I was going to say.
End of list for me. There was 7 episodes. The last one was Circle Back. I don't know if you could call that a story in and of itself.
The last one was the game about the American Horror Story itself.
Yes, exactly, and outside of the American Horror Story universe. And so you had the first 2 being a singular story, and then let's just say 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that's 5 different stories.
Yeah.
And the 6th one the 7th episode to round them all out. And I think there's 2 of them that I would say that I would recommend somebody to watch. The other ones, I wouldn't recommend them. Simple as that, you know.
Yeah, no, like I like the callbacks from the first 2. I'm totally like you as well. They were like so chill about being murdered and dead. Like, it was like, Like, you know.
Why do I have to listen to you guys? You're not even alive anymore. Now listen here, young lady.
Yeah. And those 2 boys didn't look old enough to be her parents either. They look like they kidnapped her. They didn't have any chemistry. The two husbands. Maybe that was done on purpose because one guy was a bit of a sleazeball. He was going around sucking dick left, right, and centre.
The contractor.
Yeah,
and
he
stuff,
was kind of sly on the other dude, but they didn't think. I don't think they had enough chemistry, and maybe that is the case of the showing about. They lacked the chemistry because they never really were suited to be together in the first place, and that was clever storytelling, maybe instead of bad casting, because they're showing that
it's that if you're generous, you know what I mean? Like it is that if you are
I think,
being generous.
but maybe they were trying to capture the fact that these two guys are literally all about image. That's why they adopted the beautiful daughter. They move. They're all about the high life and moving houses, and maybe it was a case
suburban.
Maybe it was a case of two superficial dudes that didn't really fall in love with each other, but they fell in love with what they saw of themselves in each other.
Yeah,
and you know, that
or even just that, like sometimes it's just this is what society expects of you.
Yeah,
you know, and that's it. Yes, of course. Yeah, and there was a little bit of that. And they just kind of like tried to shove all these actors into it. We had Noah Cyrus, we had Paris Jackson, and I just had all the faces from the old one, which you obviously can't hold against it, but it did seem to. Michael Jackson's daughter. She was one of the bullies in the first episode.
Oh, was she? Yeah.
yeah. You know the leader of the Mean Girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Michael Jackson's kid.
No way. Are you serious?
Yeah, it's Paris Jackson.
I did not know that.
Did you not? No.
No.
Yeah, so I didn't know she'd went into the. Although she wasn't the most wooden actor in it. The most wooden actor in it was the lesbian ghost, the girlfriend of the redhead one.
What did you make of the way they introduced her? Because it seemed like they're like in middle of
shoehorned her in.
Yeah, it's like where the fuck did she come from? You could have introduced her.
Came from absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, she could have been.
I went back.
Yeah,
I went back to because I watched these a few weeks ago, and I went back and I went through some episodes because I was even trying to go through it in my head, and I wanted to have a clue what I was talking about, which is always good. And I was just like, no, okay. Turns out I was right. That she was just.
I went back and rewound the end of the last episode to see if she appeared, and I'd missed something.
Yeah.
Like I was like, where the fuck did this woman come from? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I don't know.
Just shoehorned her in.
Yeah, because
they were like, oh, she should have a ghost girlfriend.
Yeah,
I think, dude, we just wrapped filming 5 days ago. It's in editing, but yeah, you know what? Yeah,
no, I think,
ghost girlfriend.
Yeah, no, I think that in particular, that story arc really does scream of rejected storyline because they're like,
hugely.
We have like 30% of a story. Like they probably couldn't connect the dot how they met the ghost girlfriend or something, you know, that kind of way. So let's just introduce her in the second episode and explain her way. Yeah,
but you know, it's just there was no feeling. That just speaks to the lack of love that it had. Like it was made, but it was not loved. Yeah, exactly. It's a commercial vehicle. We got like Michael Jackson's kid's going to be in it. We're going to have Billy Ray Cyrus's kid in it. You know, we're going to have like people are going to draw eyeballs and stuff like that. People will be talked about. Hashtag this, and it will make enough money to keep going. There's no love in it.
Yeah, what did you...
and it feels that.
Yeah, I liked Rabbit though, something you touched on as
I enjoyed that episode.
Yeah, a lot of gore. And it felt like a kind of 1950s, kind of 1960s drive-through B-horror or something.
Yeah.
But with a hint of...
Because that's the paranoia that existed.
Yeah.
That's the paranoia that existed in society at the time. Subliminal messaging, mind control.
Yeah, Reefer Madness,
Russian tactic. Yeah, exactly. MK Ultra, which came later and stuff like that. But there was that was what was in the ether. That and nuclear fallout and all of this stuff. They were the paranoias. And that's what horror films often do. Yeah. That's why we're having so many. We're going to talk about it in a different segment where we're having so many apocalypse films now. That's what's going on. We have a pandemic, and let's just take that to the nth degree and use that to scare people. So it did have that feel, and I enjoyed that. And also I enjoyed that it was one episode. I enjoyed that they didn't decide that we're going to drag this out, because like you said, it couldn't have lent itself to a season. Just get to it and wrap it up, and that did a good job. I'd recommend that episode. I actually did. My Mrs. Sheila, she didn't stick with it. She watched the first 2 and then skipped over them. I think she might watch 3. I told her she should watch that one.
Yeah,
I went as far as to recommend it.
And what other ones were? There was the Demon one, the 2 Murder House, the Game at the End, Rabbit. How many is that? Is that 5? So what 2 are we missing?
Oh man, thank you. I'm honestly, that's
here. I got
the entire point.
I got the IMDb up here.
I'm completely struggling, and I only went through them today. I'm completely struggling.
Bal White doesn't think we'll know. We've seen that one. Feral. Okay, the family. Oh, the little dude.
Oh,
that was a good episode.
Yeah. That was okay, actually. Yeah, that was the whole wild people kind of thing, like that old story from Scotland of these people that lived in the moors, or the Highlands, and they were like, so inbred and so ferocious that they were just picking off people who went off the kind of trails.
It's what The Hills Have Eyes was based on, wasn't it?
Yeah, The Hills Have Eyes was based on that as well. Yeah, and it took that, and it was a little bit silly, but it definitely wasn't. It wasn't poor, although apparently forgettable.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I was
and I nearly just finished this last week.
I scoured through some of them today because I wanted to make sure that I somehow managed to have forgotten it. So, but that wasn't bad. But it wasn't. If somebody said, I have an hour to kill, and I was like, yeah, if you had nothing else to watch.
Yeah, it's actually the second top rated. Top rated is Bal.
The top rated, I didn't like that one at all. The Bal is the one, the demon one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nah, that didn't do it for me at all. And it was like, I even said, like, you see the twist at the end where it turns out the husband is just trying to drive her crazy so that he can get her inheritance.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, so now there's a real demons. Because it was them partying in the house, and you're like, right, so this is the part where the real demon shows up. And it turns out that she's after fucking with them, and I don't know, it just projected itself, and I didn't buy her in the role of Billy Lord, and I didn't care about the episode at all. But I guess I don't speak for everyone.
So that's the naughty list. So that was the last one we did. I liked the end of that one. I didn't like Bal. I thought you could kind of see the twists coming a mile away.
Yes,
that kind of way, like
that's what I was saying when we talked a few days ago about I Know What You Did Last Summer and stuff like that. I was like, you know what, I didn't see the twist, and sometimes you
can levy a lot of different things out, but you can't levy that out.
Yeah, but you can't take it away. If it got there, you have to give it to it. It's as simple as that, and especially if it's not completely stupid. Yeah, sometimes they go, oh, it was this, and you kind of go like, oh, you mean like it was that character that was in one scene as a background cop?
Yeah, like Bone Collector. Have you ever seen Bone Collector?
Yeah.
And they're like, big reveal, who's this guy? And they're like, they have to explain who he is. And that's the worst thing. You need it should be the haha.
Yeah, that's why Scream and stuff is so successful. He's standing or she's standing beside you right now.
That's why Scream is so fucking sexy.
But it wasn't like it's your best friend, it's the person you're confiding in, it's the person you're telling that you're scared. You're talking to the killer. That's the cool thing about that. And I kind of did that, projected itself, and then I saw it. I felt like I was watching the whole thing from 5 minutes in the future. And it's not because I was clever, it's that it was completely
obvious.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing as well with a lot of these American horror stories now, that at the start they were very original and they were quite like jumpy, so they were kind of unpredictable. But they It made you feel uncomfortable.
There's a bit of love, and there's a bit of love in it, so it kind of sucks you in and you feel a little bit immersed in it.
Yeah. I just think as something you were saying about formulaic, I just think that it kind of became a bit more formulaic as it went along, because you're kind of like you think of the most unpredictable outcome, and that's usually what they go for. So their unpredictability became their predictability. That kind of way. Like, so sometimes, like, I just think you get caught in that trap where you're like, oh, we have to be weirder, we have to be stranger, we have to be weirder and stranger. And eventually, when you get immersed in these worlds, that you go, okay, they're going to go for the weirdest, strangest thing. So what is the weirdest, strangest thing I can think of as being the outcome for this? And a lot of the times, then you start seeing those twists coming a mile away, like,
Yeah, the feral kid. I even knew that the feral kid was going to be their leader.
Yeah, and he's got to eat his parents.
Yeah, and then when they caught him, like, who are these? I knew he was going to turn on them because he's so far gone or whatever. Even that, it just projected. Like, even straight away, they were like, oh, our son, who hasn't turned up in this show at all yet, is dead and not going to show up in this show at all. And I was like, the only way he could still be alive is if they took him in. And if they took him in, they probably made him some sort of fucking leader.
And the reason they take those people is because the lineage dilutes the incestuous fucking bloodlines. That's what they do. They bring in people from outside. They kind of ingratiate them into their communities to give them important roles, and in the fucking
especially males who can,
that's what they do, and make them just have sex with women, like, when they get older.
Because like, even when you're breeding cattle, you only need one bull.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean. And what you need then is want to make sure that bull is no way related to the cattle. That kind of way.
And the best thing is like a kid from like the other side of the country whose parents are gone on this hike or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that projected itself. But the actual gore and viscera was actually so good that I just kind of enjoyed it. It had good tempo. It had some sort of jumps, and it was kind of more amusing than scary. Like, this was breakfast horror.
Yeah.
Like, this is the horror you watch over, your toast in the morning. It's not the stuff you close the blinds and get a glass of wine and
breakfast
sit down and
horror. I
watch
love that.
breakfast horror.
Like slice of toast and some gore.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, but like, that wouldn't affect you if you were. I'm a big horror buff, but there's some horror movies that I watched and I know if I was just left alone in the house by myself in the real dead of night or somewhere kind of remote, and I watched that horror, I know I get in my own head.
Yeah.
Like, those horrors still exist.
Of course.
They exist. And then there's the furthest thing from it.
Yeah.
I could watch.
It's almost
any
an
of these
action
horrors.
movie.
Oh yeah, I could watch any of these horrors in a cabin in the woods. It wouldn't do anything. It just doesn't have the X factor that horror has that gets under your skin. It didn't have any of that. So I found pockets where I could enjoy it. And the pockets would be, again, that feral one, forgettable but pretty decent. And those two, the bro one was more of a comedy horror for me, and I enjoyed those on a personal level. And then the one good one I would say is kind of a good horror idea was the horror film that creates horror.
Drive-In or something, I think it's called.
The Drive-In. It probably is called Drive-In.
Yeah, but so you're probably in the same mind as me that the ones that actually branched away from the pre-existing continuity that we know of, i.e. Murder House, were probably the strongest episodes in the 7-episode run.
Actually, that's a good point. I suppose that's an obvious pattern which I wasn't really directly talking about.
Yeah.
But it does ring true.
The ones in the middle,
the ones that just decided to just be themselves. Yeah,
yeah. Because even though
weren't going for star power or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. Just for originality.
Yes.
Yeah, like even though the Bal one
again, campfire stories, but good campfire stories.
Even though the Bal one isn't super original, there's the feral one, but they're original for American Horror Story.
Yes.
That kind of way, like,
it's not something. Yeah, it's not something that they have done to death.
Yeah, exactly.
So give them that at least.
Because the Bal episode was almost like an American Horror Story does Rosemary's Baby or something, that kind of way.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, because, like, in American Horror Story, of course she ends up going to fuck the demon. Because that's what American Horror Story does.
Because that's how they roll.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, so when you look over the 7 episodes run, what would be your top 3?
All right, I'm going to go over the 7-episode run. I'm going to go from 3 upwards, just so we can have the drum roll reveal, even though I've already said it. I would go the feral one. Yeah. Forgettable, but obviously I didn't dislike it. And I would go the Bro House one because it's just so forgivable.
Yeah.
Inside of its own silliness, and it embraced its own silliness.
Yeah. And
then I'd go the Rabbit, the Drive-In, apparently it's called, episode has been my favourite because that was like a good horror story told in a short format.
Yeah. Yeah, mine would probably be, probably Bal, and then it would probably be Bro House, and then Rabbit probably, like, because even though Bro House was probably the most enjoyable, Rabbit was probably the best in terms of quality.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because it kept you on edge, and it was just like...
had a really good tempo.
It was really intense.
It didn't have enough time to mess around and delve into the dynamics that, like, the civics lesson, the sexual politics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's just a gay dude, and he was just blowing people. Like, you didn't have to hear about his background.
And they tore each other apart.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, he was just there. Like, that's what I liked about that episode as well. Is just like, and then what I like about the American Horror Story is they're just like, oh yeah, that dude's gay. Yeah, so what? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's banging that dude. Why do we have to highlight it? It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, because it's the equivalent of the dude that's banging the girl. It's the exact same thing. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like the important thing is,
I think, again, representation is great, but the story should always just be the story.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought Rabbit did that really well. Like,
exactly. It wrapped itself up really well.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, it's just a gay slut. Who cares? That kind of thing. Like,
and then they burn the copy, and then they make out, and then it's online and fade to black, and we're done here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was good. I like the gore and the intensity, and something we talked about recently was like slashers should be lean, and that's why we were saying that maybe they don't lend themselves quite well to TV show format in the way like
because it gets bogged down in social issues
and just character building and development is not really needed in a slasher movie. You know what I mean? Like you need to develop one character usually, and that's the main character. And then you have these ancillary characters that are just fodder in the way of the saving the main character, you know?
Exactly. Like, oh, I have a conservative upbringing, and my mother's running for mayor. And you're like, oh God, I don't care.
Yeah.
I do not care.
Yeah.
You know.
It's just like, it's like, I'm binary. He's like, yeah, but what is your importance to the character, to the storyline? It's like, but... Yeah, actually, wait, there's no need for that, actually. I don't need to mention that at all. I could just be a character and not talk about how I'm binary and my mother's, as you said, running for mayor and she's conservative, but my father's a liberal. What do I do?
And they're, what, sharing an apartment.
Sharing an apartment? What an odd pairing. You know what I mean? And then you have like 25 minutes of explaining their backstory when we get one kill. You know,
of a character that all you had enough time to do was learn to hate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know. So
you know,
I just don't get it.
That's it.
Yeah. But yeah. So when I was looking, what do you think like is the future for American Horror Story? I know season 10's just finished up. You think we're going to get more of these anthology series? What's the future going to be like with Disney? Is pretty much what I'm getting at.
Well, I suppose I'd wrap out by saying that this is definitely going to be a franchise that will keep going as long as it's making money.
Yeah.
That is all it is. It's a money-making vehicle, and the integrity's probably gone 5 seasons ago. They get so self-indulgent. They made Kathy Bates a robot at one point. It was really, you know what I mean? It was just really, really stupid. But no, I don't think it has the integrity to stop.
Yeah,
I think the actors might.
Yeah,
you know,
they're falling away bit by bit, aren't they?
Yeah, because they're like, they don't want to be known by this. They want to get into more serious roles. They don't, you know. So I think the actors might, but the people behind the camera and the writers, it's a steady paycheck, and I get that.
Yeah,
but no, I don't think it's going to fall away.
Yeah, and I think you're probably right too. And I was like, I think it could be a case of its future with Disney might not be a case of just a success, but what contracts pre-existed Disney's merger with Fox. And I think that would be a big question for American Horror Story. You know what I mean? Because there might already be a 5-year deal that Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk might have signed a long time ago. That might just exist there, and Disney might just be having to keep churning out this shit. But, you know, with the streaming wars the way they are, I think these streaming services are just fucking starving out for content. So anything that has a built-in fan base, they're going to just keep churning them out and churning them out and churning them out.
And why wouldn't that? Yeah. That's the Transformers thing, man. I couldn't watch them after the first one, but it's a $1.5 billion, $2 billion, whatever it made. You know, it's a money-making vehiul.
Yeah, so
and it's a money-making. Hollywood makes money, like
exactly. That's what it's all about, making the numbers game. But so what you call it? So American Horror Stories is kind of okay. As we touched upon, the best parts about it were probably the more standalone original stories and the ones that didn't try to incorporate themselves into the pre-existing lore and the continuity that's from the original series. And that's probably where we're at. Like, Noel, do you want to say before we get the fuck out here?
No, just American Horror Stories. You keep doing what you do, and I might check in with you from time to time.
Yeah, I'll probably just keep staying watching them.
Exactly. Yeah.
What is wrong with me? You know, I'm literally the reason these shows continue.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, folks. So, this is Invasion Potty Snatchers. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
And I'm your host, Noel John Toohey.
We got Cara Mack in the back, and that was American Horror Stories. And we'll see you next time, motherfuckers. Peace. And